So it's apparent that this laser is destroying the competition. Now we're going to find out why, and I've got some projects that you'll guarantee you're going to enjoy. So let's get on with it then. This is the Falcon 2 40-watt laser from Creality. Now before someone comments, I'm going to mention this right now. In a matter of moments, someone will be commenting going, "These are extremely dangerous. They shouldn't be allowed. It's not in an enclosure. You will be blinded. There's no extraction. You'll be gassed to death." Now, whilst there is truth in that, let me just tell you the reasons why an open system is actually beneficial. So this is a class 4 laser. Its wavelength is 450 nanometers, which is on the visual spectrum. That means if you get a slight glare from that laser, you will be blinded for life. However, if you set the height of the laser using the recommended height gauge, there is very little chance for that laser beam to come within your vision. Not only that, but at all times you should be wearing the correct safety glasses. Treat this like any power tool. Use the correct personal protective equipment and strictly stick to safety protocol. So Creality does make a cover for this to sit in, which is a front opening cover. But the main benefit of an open system like this is I can put full size boards underneath without a worry. The build area is 400 by 415 millimeters. If this is a fully boxed in enclosed system, then I'd have to cut my pieces of wood to fit that exactly. With an open gantry, I don't need to, and I can hang it on the wall after, just like my other ones. So ventilation is incredibly important. The glues within the plywood can be toxic, so you want to try and mitigate that as much as you can. My workshop has 2 double garage doors, so I get good airflow through here. The other alternative is to use a powered air respirator like this one that I made myself. So my long-term followers know that the Xtool D1 40-watt is currently my favourite laser. However, Creality think that they're a good contender against the Xtool, so let's find out. Let's quickly look at features. We've got on-off switch, an emergency stop. I'm going to use this attached to a laptop using Lightburn, but you can also just plug the files into the USB slot here and operate the machine offline using the control panel. There's no LCD display, it's analog at this point. The cable it comes with is an OTG connector, so we'll see if we can operate it from my phone. The power supply is a massive brick. 24 volts, 10 amps, 240 watts. This machine comes with an aquarium style air pump and is tethered to the machine here. You've also got a power dial here so you can increase or decrease the airflow. Right, so one of the key features that sets this laser apart from the Xtool is this button here. We can now change between the full 40 watts and just 20 watts. The reason is the 40 watt produces a much wider beam. The 20 watt you get more precision, so you can choose between engraving and cutting. I know this is something that my subscribers have been worried about in the past, so that's an excellent feature, the fact that we can change between the precision and power. Also just here is an auxiliary OTG connector. I haven't figured out what that is for, but I'm wondering if we can use that to add another feature. Now if that is producing 5 volts, then we can add a little crosshair laser. If you saw my video on the Comgrow Z1 Pro, you'll know exactly why this is useful. Right, so we're going to fully test this thing now. I've got the boards that I tested all the other machines against. Using these, we'll be able to figure out the cut value. And stick around because I will be exploring what any potential flaws are with this system. I see it as my official job to figure out anything that's wrong with this so you know exactly what you're purchasing. Now, if you would like to support me with future reviews, I actually raffle these machines off. There'll be a link in the description so you can get one of these for just £5. And sometimes, depending on the costs involved, I'll share that with charities as well. So check that out for your chance to win. Let's begin testing. So on Lightburn, I've clicked the material test generator. Here's the preview. Let's start the machine. The noise up close is 68 decibels. Right then, let's take a look at that. So nearly all squares fell out up to 450 millimeters per minute. If we turn it over, we can see it's just holding on at 500 millimeters per minute. So that there is a very similar result to the Xtool D1. However, the D1 was dropping squares all the way down to 70% power, up to a maximum of 400 millimeters per minute. There is one significant factor here though. I'm using the standard pump that came with the machine. Let's try again, but with compressed air. So all I've done is taken my pneumatic line and pushed it into the rubber hose. Let's see if that works better. Right, let's take a look at that then. So look, we can see a few more have fallen out now. If we look on the back, we've got more that will just pop out if we push them. That's the 500 millimeters per minute, 450 at 90% power, 400 at 80% power, just comes off. So these squares are cut at 10 millimeters, but interestingly, they've got a preset for a 0.25 millimeter offset. If we take the calipers, I'm actually measuring nearly 10.25. So that's very interesting. Maybe if I take the offset off, we'll get much more accurate parts. Now this is actually the third test, because this one here, I got even worse results. What this highlights though is variability in the wood itself. So this is a 9 millimeter thick hardwood ply. If we say use something like birch ply, then you'd get better results. The birch ply has got a much more uniform grain, so you won't get as much variability. Right, so at this point of filming, the Falcon 2 40 watt is £1,300. I'm going to ask Creality for some further discounts, so check those out in the links. So now if we do the £1,300 by 500 millimeters per minute cut, we get a cut value of 2.6, which is the best so far. So there may be more discounts on the D1, but that was 1,650, which gave a 3.3 rating. The Comgrow Z1 10 watt was a 3 rating, so this has even beaten that. So that's what I've done to determine the value rating, but there is obviously more factors to this. So let's see what else it can handle. Alright, to make life easy on the future tests, I'm now going to install this crosshair. Interestingly, the Falcon came with an OTG to USB adapter. So I found a USB lead and I've snipped it off. So if I plug this into the top here, then what I found is that the red wire is the positive and the outside white wire is the negative. And that seems to power the crosshair nicely. So let's laser cut a bracket and solder it together. So I spent about 10 minutes designing this corner bracket. This is even more simpler than the last one I made. I'll put a file for this on Thingiverse if you want to cut one yourself. And I've got some 3mm birch ply to cut it out of. That's how it is in Lightburn. I'm going to do 2 passes at 2000 millimeters per minute. Right, that took exactly 1 minute to cut. Now the first one got messed up because I had too much air blowing on it, so it actually lifted the board off, which made that mistake happen. Right, so very simply, I'm just going to put it together. A little dab with super glue. Just adding it to the corners like that, it gets drawn in by capillary action. And the laser itself should just feed in through here. Perfect. So next you want to add some double-sided tape, or if you don't have any like me, just glue some tape on. And now we're ready to attach it. I'm going to fit mine just under there, like so. So depending on what machine you have, you want to install it in a way that isn't going to affect any of the fans or inlets or anything, isn't going to hit against the gantry, and is generally out the way. Having it high up as well means you get a good spread with that laser. So if you're clever, you can buy one with a USB already attached. But you know, why make life easy? So I've slid on the shrink wrap first, don't forget that. All I'm going to do is twist these together, apply a little flux, preload my soldering iron, apply that to those bare wires. One side and the other side. Now I can slip these over and then slip the big one over. There we are, that'll do. Aha. After that, all I've got to do is focus it. So now all to do is to engrave a little box. I'm going to move it to the middle here. So now just align the crosshair with that box. On the device settings, you want to enable fire laser button, and then in the move menu, click fire. So that is now given us a dot just there. And now we can measure the difference between there and there. And then again in device settings, enable pointer offset. We're going to key in the difference and then that's all set. So mine turned out to be 51 millimeters in the x-axis and minus 43 in the y-axis. Now wherever I put that crosshair, I can accurately position the laser. See? So the X-Tool D1 already has that feature. But obviously if you want to save a few £100, you could just build your own. This is obviously universal, you could use it on any laser you want. Now let's say I want to mark this stainless steel multi-tool. All I have to do is align my laser and click play. That was fast. There we go, that came out really nice actually. And I had it on precise settings because I wanted the detail to come out really well. So that was 100% power at 20 watts and at 3000 millimeters per minute. We probably could go faster, but that is keyed in enough for me. But apparently when marking stainless we can get colours to come out. So let's try and do a colour test and see what happens. So let's take a look at what I've done here. So rather than doing an official test, that was going to take far too long, I've just done individual squares to see if I could guesstimate what the settings would be. So interestingly, these two squares here were done at the same speed at 5000 millimeters per minute. They were also done at the same power at 10% power on the 40 watt setting. So how is it that one colour is so different to the other? Well, what I changed is this setting here called interval. This is the space between lines. And to get that deep blue colour, I got 0.02 millimeters. And for the straw colour that you saw, that was at 0.05 millimeters. And as you can see with the circle here, I managed to outline it by multi-layering. So let's see if we can actually put that into a fairly interesting image. So I've imported this image of a butterfly into Lightburn. If you right click, I've gone on trace image. When you do, you get this menu and all you have to do is click OK. And now I've got an outline of that butterfly. Once selected, I can choose one of these different colours and that will create a new layer. And as you can see on these layers, I've set one layer to fill and the other to outline. So I've selected the internal parts of the butterfly to be filled and then I've asked it to create an outline around everything also. Let's see how that turns out. So would you look at that? That has come out fantastic actually. I think the outline is a little bit too burny, maybe that could have been done quicker. But that blue has come up really good. So I carry my multi-tool around with me pretty much everywhere. The issue I have is the carry pouch. I've just broken it, obviously from daily use. So I've got some leather, so let's make a decent pouch with it. But thinking of weapons, what I'm also going to do is incorporate this torch. This is my very powerful ShadowHawk. If, like me, it's illegal to carry weapons in your country, I highly recommend getting a powerful torch. Come night or day, if you've got a powerful torch, you can really stop someone from attacking you. So this is the pouch design I came up with. To get the measurements, I simply just wrapped some power cord around my tools like that. That's how I got a good guesstimation. But rather than waste good quality leather, what I'll do is I'll cut it out of cardboard first. Alright, so 2000 millimeters per minute, 100% power. Let's see. Well, that was satisfying. And you know what? I probably could have gone faster. Can you imagine how many hours this is going to save prototyping leatherwork? Alright, so let's see if it's all going to fit. That'll be something like that. So I might have added a bit too much length on that. I think that was go on the inside actually. Like that. Ah, that looks like we're there. That just folds over. So moment of truth, does everything fit? Oh, that's not bad. Well, I would say that was pretty good. I might just add a few millimeters to this part here. It's a bit tight. Add an extra 5 millimeters to this just so it comes down a bit further. So basically this cardboard is the same thickness as the leather, so I'm hoping that'll work out just nicely. Right, so after doing a few tests, I think we can do this in 2 passes at 10,000 millimeters per minute. Let's see. Halfway through it cutting, I've realised that I made another mistake. Let's see how well it's done regardless. Right, so unfortunately, it didn't go all the way through. I was thinking 10,000 millimeters per minute was a bit fast, but here's the thing to think about when you're designing. See that it's gone through the corner just fine, but the problem is acceleration between points. It may have cut these small bits absolutely fine, but as you can imagine, it's got no time to accelerate to get up to full speed. So these simply weren't cutting at 10,000 millimeters per minute, even though the settings were set that way. What I should have done is cut a line and then seen how much was needed. But whilst looking at the prototype, I realised I didn't need all of these holes there. So I think I'm going to bite the bullet and try and find another piece of leather. That's a real shame because that was a really nice piece as well. So after making a pig's ear the first attempt, I've changed the design again. But instead of this being mismatched, I've found some nice leather again. One benefit of being a hoarder, you'll always find what you want eventually. Hey, well this is looking good. Oh, it's slightly thicker this one is. Yep, tiny bit slower. I wouldn't get that furriness on the edge. Never mind, easy fix. Now that smell. Does anyone else remember the foot and mouth epidemic? Alright, so let's put it together. So with 2 needles, we're going to go in and out. So far so good. Nice. So I've got this little stud to put on now. So I'll just pop the screw in behind there, and this stud just screws on. So let's just see how everything fits quick. Oh yes. Look at that. Oh yeah, I'm rocking this. What's that? You need something fixed? Do not worry. I have a multi-tool. All is done, fair maiden. I shall now slip this back in this nice and tidy neat belt pouch. What's that? Do I sense an altercation? Be blinded! You didn't see where I went, did you? On another note though, this blade has gone dull. Now how could I use a laser to sharpen this? So I think we should finish by pushing the machine to the absolute limit. I have here a nice thick piece of pallet wood, that's nearly 22 millimeters, and we've got some MDF at 18 millimeters. So what shall we make? Well, I bought this recently at a car boot sale. This is a hand crank grinder, but what I want to do is put some new wheels on this for sharpening knives. So let's see what we can cut and I'll show you how it works. Okay, so I'm going to quickly design this on Lightburn. So I'm going to go over here and select the circle tool, just click and drag anywhere in the middle. So to adjust its size, I go up to this corner here. I'm going to put 9.5 millimeters width, 9.5 height, and now I'm going to set the position here, so X position and Y position. So that's going to be the shaft hole. Now let's do another circle. I'm going to make that 125 millimeters because that's the size of my wood. There we go, so the same X and Y position. There's going to be one key detail with this to make it work. I'm going to add another little circle. Now I want a little channel cut just here, so I'm just going to take the rectangle tool, make a little rectangle. What's nice is where I positioned it, it's a snap to center, which is good. By holding Control, I've selected the outer circle and the rectangle. Selecting the nodes tool, I'm going to press Control B. That gives me this option here, and now I'm going to click on Subtract. Now I'm going to do the same, press Control and select this inner circle. And on nodes mode, Control B, subtract A to B. On Selection tool, we've now created this shape here. So now I've selected the whole thing and I want it down the bottom corner. So I've put selected corner there. and I'm going to put position 0 on both X and Y. I'm going to set the speed at 2000 millimeters per minute. And what I've done is I put a large amount of passes, and we're going to see how many passes it takes to cut this shape out. FYI, in the UK, we use heat-treated wood. We're not allowed to use chemically treated wood in this country. But say you're in the United States, some of the chemicals that you guys use are deadly, so you want to be careful. So I'll turn the compressed air on and we'll begin. Right, we're done. So I stopped it on the 20th pass. That is not bad at all. That is very clean. The middle is still holding on by just a slither, but I'm very pleased with that. That was just 4 minutes and 39 seconds to complete. That is a dead straight, smooth cut. That's probably one of the best cuts we've seen so far, actually. Now, I know you bandsaw lovers will be like, oh, but you can do it on a bandsaw. Yeah, but not that precise, can you? The question is, how is it with MDF though? That's another kettle of fish. So this design's even more simple. There's no little funny cutout, it's just slightly bigger. Now the smoke from this one isn't good at all, so I'm going to be doing this at a distance. You've also got to be very, very careful, MDF. It's the #1 material that always catches on fire for me. Right, air on, let's begin. So I didn't mention it, but this thing's got limit switches on every axis. So that's actually really good, because what it's done is it's stopped straining the motors and it carry on and bashing into the side of the gantry. I've seen that happen with most of the other tools, including the X tool. So there you go, a good example of the safety feature. Right, let's move it along. Right, so let's see how this is done. So believe it or not, this was actually poking through at just 17 passes. However, it seemed that it didn't want to do much more after that, even at 45 passes. We can see it's just holding on by a slither. But I actually think I made a mistake here where I didn't set the height properly. But let's see if I can just release this and see how well it's done. I think this is a job for the Multiool. Ta-da! So there you go, it's 90% there. I think the gap from the laser is at least like 8 millimeters. I should have had it basically just touching the surface for anything thick. Something that's definitely worth noting though is if you're doing small cuts like this one in the center, this pretty much wanted to catch on fire. It's because the laser's there in a concentrated amount, it's got more chance of catching an ember. Whilst on these longer cuts, it's cooling down as it goes, so you don't get a chance for an ember to form. I mean, this is a pretty awesome Tesla laser, but if you're going to cut MDF, you're better off getting a CNC router, really. You'll be quicker and neater. So let me show you how to install this. First of all, I'm going to take the old wheel off, flip my new wooden one on. That'll do. So one very key detail is this bolt. You can see I cut it with a grinder with a 1mm cutting disc. The next component is Emery cloth. This set goes from 150 all the way to 600 grit. So I'm going to start with 400 because it's not that bad. If it was particularly blunt, I'd start with 150 grit. So I'm going to make that 20 millimeters roughly bigger than I need it to be. Two ends like this, put that in the slot. Now we can slide in our split bolt. So now if I turn that bolt, it should start tightening up. There we are. Now the wood could have been a little bit wider, but never mind. So very quick sharpness test. Not sharp at all. So let's see how we get on with this then. Right, first grit, a bit rough because I am freehanding it, but I'll be able to get that out, don't you worry. Right then, steady as she goes. That's it, I was starting to get that little wire edge coming through. Now I just want to clean up those scratch marks. Now for that I'm just using a polycarbide disc. There you are, that was just to tidy up the faces. So now let's put on the MDF wheel. So I'm quickly going to just use this fatherless file and just tidy up the surface. Right, that should do. And so basically I'm now going to use directly some polishing compound. So let's see how well that does. Okay, so that's looking good to me. What do you think? Here we are. But how well does she cut? So I thought this was really gross when other people did it, but apparently the way to test if the knife's really sharp is if it can cut hair. There you go, still gross if you ask me. So finally, let's go over what I haven't shown you and what I don't like about this machine. But before we get into it, I'd love to know if this is the kind of content you like. I would also love to know which of my videos that you prefer. Let me know your favourite one and why. Now, I'm asking you that because the videos that I love to make the most don't get any views. But regardless of my preferences, I actually enjoy helping people. So let me know the content that you prefer and I'll be sure to make it for you. So I haven't shown you that it came with extra standoffs. Not only that, but we've got more than one position that you can screw the feet into. This is to allow more space for weird sizes of wood, like I mentioned earlier. And they've gone to town on the safety features. There are sensors on every point. So no more will the laser head crash into the side of the gantry. You may have noticed as well, on the laser head, you've got these light indicators here. It can actually sense if the lens is too dirty and needs cleaning or replacing. It'll sense if there's air or not to warn you that you should have some. And there's a fire alarm as well. Now, we actually didn't trigger it today, which is the first. I normally hate the fire sensor because normal sunlight sets it off. Also, the machine came pretty much pre-assembled. All I had to do is attach to the laser head and that was it. It was slightly loose though, which is common, so all you need to do is tighten up the cam bolt underneath. So let's go, what don't I like about this? This little height gauge is gonna get lost. I hate these, I much prefer the drop down versions. For what is essentially a really good quality machine, I even love the bearing system that they've got. I'm so disappointed that they throw in these naff pumps. Yes, it's cool that the machine can turn it on and off automatically, but those connections aren't standard off the shelf either, are they? And that connection's the same on the brick as well. Which means if this breaks, you have to go to Creality to get a new one. But I can honestly say I'm very impressed for the money. I love the way the cables are managed, that's very neat and tidy. And it's worked flawlessly. So now would I choose this or the X tool? Well, for less money, probably going to choose this one. So I'm going to pack this away nice and neatly now for the raffle. Also, I got in touch with ShadowHawk. They're giving me a few more, so I'll include a few of these in the runner-ups. I've left a link for the Multiool and other stuff that you've seen in this video. And I'll make sure that Creality gives the best discounts if you're interested in buying one of these machines. So I do hope you appreciate the honest reviews. The results can't be faked. And may I encourage you to stop watching YouTube and to get out there in the real world and to forge for yourself a life worth living. And I'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.